This is Brent with Lykins Motorsports, and this is our 302 tunnel port that we are working on, and we're going to try to make some progress. Get the timing cover and balancer on, and the cylinder heads on with the lifters, and get our rocker arms, the guide plates and the rocker arm studs on, so that we can measure for push rods. Oil pan is on its way. And with the pickup, so we should be able to, I don't know if I have the oil pan. This is Thursday, so I don't know if I'll have the oil pan tomorrow or not. This is probably going to be a 2-day spanning video. It's Thursday evening, but want to just go ahead and get going and get the timing cover on. We're going to take some lacquer thinner and wipe down our surface to make sure that our gasket will stick well. Get our timing chain lubed up and our fuel pump eccentric. I'm going to torque the cam bolt in front of you so that I have that on video. I've found that the videos help me too, because I have a video recording of some steps, and I usually take videos to prove to myself that yes, I did in fact torque cam thrust plate bolts and this and that. So kind of helps my OCD a little bit when I can roll through and say, yep, I did it. But I want to get this surface prepped, and we're going to get our timing cover on. So this is our timing cover. It is a 1968 vintage cover. It's got our fuel pump boss on it, and the seal goes in from the rear. I have put that in there. And some of the newer ones, the seal has a big flange on it, and it goes on from the outside. But if your timing cover is like this, make sure you don't forget to put the seal in, because it makes it really pretty much impossible to do it after you put it on. I'm going to get some silicone on our timing cover, and we'll get our gasket stuck on there. I've already trimmed around the timing cover so that nobody yells at me on YouTube. We have our timing cover bolts from AMK ready, and I'm going to get my centering tool out to help me locate the cover concentrically on the crankshaft snout, and we're going to get this puppy on. All right, this ARP bolt is a 5/8 12 point, and I'm gonna get this position so I can film and torque at the same time. But it torques to 45 pound-feet, and that's what I've got my wrench set to, 45. So that is done. We're gonna lube up our timing. Our fuel pump eccentric, and put some grease on our timing set, and get a thin layer of silicone on our block, position our gasket, and then a thin layer on our timing cover, and then get that bolted on. With silicone or any type of sealant like this, a little goes a long way. So you just want just a really thin layer, and if you get a glob, you just smooth it out and go on. But you don't need much. This just helps to take up any of the imperfections in the block or in the timing cover or whatever. What's good is that it helps hold the gasket in place. All right, we're just gonna get our other bolts in. Make sure that you lube up your seal. You don't want a dry seal. And another tip is to check your eccentric to timing cover clearance. Some of the, I don't know if they make them anymore, but it used to be that if you did an FE, that you had to order this special Ford Racing fuel pump eccentric that had a 7/16 hole in it, and they were really wide, and they would sometimes hit some of the casting embossments inside the timing cover, and those had to be ground down. So just an extra step there. But I'm gonna get the rest of these bolts in. You don't need to see that. And then our timing cover will be on. Okay, next is our real 302 tunnel port balancer. We're gonna get that on there and double check that our timing pointer is correct. We're suffering the same problems with this balancer as we were on our 289 balancer. The marks are going away, but these are marked all the way up to like 40, so it'll be easy for me to touch those up with some white paint. But I'm going to get this balancer on. When you do that, make sure that you grease or oil the hub before it goes in, just to make sure that everything is lubricated when it goes to the seal. On a Ford, if the balancer to snout clearance is correct, you can pull those on with the big fat 5/8 crank bolt that Ford uses. We don't use the little sissy Chevrolet bolts, but that's only if the clearance is correct. Sometimes you get some balancers and they've got like 2 or 3 thousandths press on them, and you end up fighting yourself a lot on those. But we'll get this one on and get our top dead center checked. All right, so we're checking true top dead center, and it just doesn't get any better than that. So we're in good shape. I'm gonna mark that. After we get everything painted, I'll come back and fill in some various markings with a white paint marker and get us ready for the dyno. Okay, for our lifters, we're gonna be using these Morel standard travel hydraulic roller lifters. Do not soak these in oil. Just wipe them off and lightly oil them and slide them in the bores. All right, so it's Friday morning. We got our lifters in. Those have to go in before the heads go on a short deck, small block Ford. We're gonna get our decks cleaned off and our Cometic head gaskets on. I'm going to, typically you don't coat MLS head gaskets, but in this scenario with the apparent, I guess, repairs made on one of the heads, I'm going to coat them with copper coat just for a little added protection. And we'll get our deck surfaces cleaned up and the deck surfaces on the heads cleaned up, and we'll get our heads bolted on. So when you use a Cometic gasket, it's a multi-layer steel. They're held together by rivets. The issue is they put the rivets in spots where they touch other things. So you're trying to get a good clamping on the cylinder head, and you have these rivets that are hitting different parts of the block and the engine and the timing cover, and it just doesn't set well with me. So what I do is, in these two areas, I will drill those rivets out and make sure that they don't impede the clamping, because that's right near an oil drain. I don't know, I just have never had warm and fuzzy feelings about that. So before I do coat these, I'm going to get rid of those rivets just on those two sides there. This one is way out of the way, it won't hurt anything. But that's one of the things that you have to look at before you install those. Making steady progress. Cylinder heads are on, the bolts are torqued. I did dry fit the intake manifold, and it will need cut because the ports line up without the gasket, so that'll need to be done. I'll show you that in a minute because it is pretty impressive when you see it. Got our freeze plugs. I primer those and knock those in. Sometimes the paint doesn't really want to stick to brass right off the bat, so I throw some epoxy primer on there to keep that from not sticking. I think we're going to go ahead and get our water pump installed, and then move on to the valve train. And we got to put the guide plates in, rocker arm studs, and we need to measure for push rod length. Okay, we're working with a remanufactured cast iron factory style pump. Do yourself a favor and take it apart and reseal the gasket surfaces. This bit me once a long time ago. Bolted the pump up and it leaked between the gasket that goes on here and this backing plate. So do your silicone stuff before you bolt this on. All right, so what I'm doing now is I've got some AFR adjustable guide plates. We got some ARP rocker arm studs. We're using these comp cams, Ultra XD steel bodied rocker arms. And I'm just getting my push rods lined up, and that's kind of can be a tedious process. You stick the rocker arm on there and make sure that it's lined up with the valve stem, and then tighten up your rocker stud when you get there. On these heads, I'm just being extra cautious because a lot of the things that we're done with these heads, they don't follow the standard small block Ford stuff. All of your rocker arm studs hit water, so when I'm screwing my rocker arm studs in, I'm using some thread sealant so that there's no oil that seeps down into or no water that comes out. I was in FE mode there for a second, but yeah, we don't want any water up here, so need to seal that off. I am also measuring for push rod length, and I'm getting 6,390 so far, plus preload, so that'll be an easy thing to get. Probably aim for something like a 6,425, which is a common increment, and I'll get those ordered today with Trend. But right now I'm going to go ahead and finish up setting up my rocker arm studs. Alright, so all of our rocker arm studs and guide plates are on, and I was able to dial in the push rod length a little bit tighter, and we got a nice little thin pattern there. And I went ahead and sent in the order for the push rods. Here's the intake manifold. This is a factory Ford piece, and looks brand spanking new thanks to Bobby at Houston Vapor Blasting. And I'm not going to give too much away right now, but got a pair of really nice looking Holley 600s that'll go on there, and I'll save that picture for when we're wrapping things up. But the intake manifold fits as is. I don't have any gaskets on there, so that means that the flanges need cut. The thickness of the gasket, so about 60 thousandths. And we will get that done. And like I said, push rods are on their way, or not on their way. I sent the order in just before I clicked record on this video segment. So those are coming from Trend, probably be here next week. And our oil pan shipped, I just got email for that. And I think what I'm going to do is put a coat of paint on the water pump and the timing cover and our freeze plugs, and just kind of go over everything with a universal coat. Then I can get my fuel pump on and some other little goodies. But that's where we sit right now. I'm going to go ahead and get everything masked off and throw a coat of satin black on everything. Fresh coat of paint is on. We got our Carter fuel pump on. We're rolling hard now. So we were rolling hard, I guess. I'm gonna have to stop because I don't have anything left to bolt on. But I'm gonna get the intake manifold cut. Our oil pan and pickup should be here probably the beginning of next week. I can get that on. And then should have push rods next week as well, and then be final assembly time. So that's good news, and we are well underway. Hopefully we'll get to hear this one run in a couple weeks. All right, guys, thanks for watching the further assembly of this engine. Appreciate you all hanging around and checking everything out. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that so that you don't miss out on the dyno video for this. I'm curious to see what it'll make. I have no experience with these engines, but I know for cylinder head flow, around 250 or so. So it's a lot better than the other small block Ford heads of that time, with the exception of the Boss heads. But the only thing that is against it is that huge port. So hopefully some things that I did with the camshaft and that sort of thing will help that. But I expect it to make some decent horsepower. We'll find out. All right, I hope you're having a good weekend. The seasons are changing here. It was 47 degrees this morning when I got up, so that's a welcome change as compared to the upper 60s and lower 70s when I've been waking up in the past. So I'm ready for fall. I don't like summer. I don't like winter. Spring and fall are my preferred seasons, but you get what you get, right? All right, I'll talk to you all later on.